Okay. Um, so during the first 2 years of Joe Biden's presidency, Democrats had razor thin majorities in the House and the Senate, but they passed a ton of legislation. Uh, and during the first 2 years, a lot of the legislation that was passed was incredibly consequential and will be for decades. During the first 110 whatever days of Donald Trump's second term, Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, very thin margins again. They've passed like five bills, and three of them have been like, renaming post offices or something. Uh, it's the least amount of legislation passed during the first 100 days I think that's ever been recorded. And but Trump has said, he has this huge agenda that he needs to advance in the form of legislation. It's not stuff that he can do with executive orders. You can't change the tax code with an executive order. You can't fund areas of the government with an executive order because Congress has the power of the purse. So there are things that even he understands that he can't get done unless it's in the form of legislation. And he has demonstrated over the last 110 days that he, apart from this one thing, he has absolutely no use for Congress. He doesn't care about Congress. He's not going to work with Congress. He just expects them to do what he tells them to do. And so he wanted his entire agenda that requires legislation to be wrapped up into one single bill. And he's been, for a year, he's been calling it his big beautiful bill. It's just like, how is this real life, man? How the fuck is this real life? Donald Trump's big beautiful bill. And we started to see like the outline of just how much Republicans actually do hate poor people in the United States, even if they're Republican voters. When like snippets of their Medicaid plan came out and they were going to throw like 10.1 million people out of Medicaid, and 7.6 million Americans would be left without any health insurance coverage at all. Just nothing. And there was a faction of Republicans saying that doesn't go far enough. We want more cuts to Medicaid. We want more people thrown off of all of their insurance coverage. The bill wasn't cruel enough to poor people. And so there was a section of Republicans who were like, nope, not good enough. I'm not voting for this. But, despite Donald Trump and all of his threats and all of this stuff. And so, it's like the way legislation works in the House and the Senate is a bill gets introduced, and then whatever congressional committee has jurisdiction over the things that are covered in that legislation, the bill goes to that committee. And the Democrats and the Republicans on that committee try to hammer out, terms or whatever, because before a bill can get to the floor of the House of Representatives, it has to get voted out of committee, meaning that a majority of people on that committee has to say yes to this bill. We should put it up for a full vote on the floor. Republicans control the House and the Senate right now. And yesterday, Friday, Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill was voted down in the House Budget Committee that is controlled by Republicans because a bunch of Republicans joined with Democrats to block Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill because it didn't go far enough in hurting poor people. It didn't go far enough. And, folks on the left and people in the media on the left are having a field day with this. Big, beautiful failure, big, beautiful bust. crowing about it and stuff, but it's just like when you think about the actual stakes of what's going on here, essentially the elimination of SNAP benefits for everybody, food stamps. They don't give a shit about hungry kids. They're eliminating school lunch programs and school breakfast programs all over the place. And, there is a segment of Republicans in the House and the Senate that don't just want to make cuts to Medicaid and Medicare. They want to do away with those programs entirely. And, Elon Musk has already primed the MAGA base for months and months and months by saying that Medicaid is a scam, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, and all of these programs are just experiencing a tsunami of fraud, and so they need to just be wiped off the planet, and nobody gets Social Security, Medicaid, or Medicare anymore. And it's like you think about that Republicans in the House are trying to do this at a time when we're dealing with this tariff bullshit, the economic downturn that we're already in right now, that's going to get worse over the summer. And it's like Trump wants to make all of these cuts to social programs so that he can give bigger tax cuts than he already did to the 1% who don't need the fucking money. And it's going to destroy the bottom 70% of the people in this country. And, you combine that with, because it's like tax cuts, that's the only thing that Donald Trump cares about economically. That's the only thing he gives a shit about, is I want more tax cuts for me and my friends. He uses the culture war stuff to keep the base on his side. And Mike Lee introducing his little bill to greatly expand the definition of the word obscenity to ban the production, distribution, and consumption of pornography in the United States, to ban most video games. You're going to couple that with, before the end of this year, there will be proposed legislation for a nationwide abortion ban and a nationwide ban on access to birth control. At a point in time when one party in this country is doing its absolute level best to drive as many of us as possible into just abject poverty with seemingly no way out, so that Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Jeff Bezos, and Peter Thiel can have more money. It's a kleptocratic oligarchy, authoritarian theocracy. It's a fucking nightmare, man. And the fact that the rubes, the MAGA rubes, the Republican base, are cheering all of this stuff on because they've been told that everything is fraud. Everything is fraud. And they believe it because they're stupid. What a time to be alive, man.